Richard Hayes stared at the ceiling fan spinning lazily above him. It was 3:47 a.m. Another sleepless night. Another day of missed deadlines and unanswered emails waiting just hours away. The same cycle had repeated for months: late nights, high stress, and a constant gnawing fear that his once promising career was crumbling beneath him. At 36 years old, Richard should have been thriving. He had a well-paying job at a mid-sized tech firm, a cozy apartment in Chicago, and a network of friends who cared for him. On paper, his life looked fine, but inside he felt hollow. He was burned out, overweight, and constantly anxious. The worst part? He had no one to blame but himself. Richard used to be full of drive. In his 20s, he worked hard and outperformed everyone around him, rising quickly through the corporate ranks. But over the years, his discipline eroded. He stayed up late binge-watching shows, skipped workouts, and drowned stress in alcohol and takeout food. His once razor-sharp focus dulled, and his energy tanked. Last month, his boss called him into her office and said in a measured tone, "Richard, you're talented, but you've been distracted, missing deadlines, and your performance is slipping. I need you at your best, or we'll have to reconsider your role here." It was a warning shot. If he didn't change, he would lose everything he had worked for. That night, Richard sat on his couch surrounded by empty pizza boxes and warm beer bottles. He caught his reflection on the black screen of his TV. A tired man with puffy eyes, slumped shoulders, and a defeated look. For the first time, he admitted to himself, "I'm not just burned out, I'm lost." 2 days later, while scrolling aimlessly through his phone, Richard came across a podcast episode featuring a Navy SEAL-turned-productivity coach. The guest spoke with calm authority, sharing stories about resilience and discipline. One line struck Richard like a bolt of lightning. "You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." He paused the episode and let the words sink in. His life had no systems, no structure. He wasn't failing because he lacked ambition. He was failing because his habits and environment were perfectly designed for mediocrity. That night, Richard pulled out a notebook and wrote at the top of a blank page, "Operation Phoenix." Why Phoenix? Because he wanted to rise from the ashes of his old life. He made himself a promise. Over the next 90 days, he would rebuild his mind, body, and productivity, not through drastic, unsustainable changes, but by stacking small, consistent habits, the way compound interest grows wealth. Richard knew the first battle was the morning. For years, he woke up late, checked his phone in bed, and rushed through chaotic mornings. He decided to reclaim the first hour of his day by creating a morning mastery routine. No phone for the first 30 minutes. Instead of reacting to notifications, he would focus on himself. Hydration ritual: a tall glass of water with lemon immediately after waking. Movement: just 5 minutes of stretching to wake up his body. Mindset journal: 3 things he was grateful for, 3 things he would accomplish today. Deep breathing meditation: 5 minutes to center his thoughts and calm his racing mind. The first week was rough. He wanted to hit snooze. His mind wandered during meditation. But after 10 days, something shifted. He began to wake up feeling different, calmer, more focused, more in control. He realized mornings weren't just about habits. They were about signaling to himself, "I run my day. My day doesn't run me." By week 3, Richard felt more mentally clear, but his body was still sluggish. He was 25 pounds overweight, constantly tired, and relying on coffee to get through the day. He decided to perform an energy audit tracking everything that boosted or drained his energy. Late night Netflix binges, energy drain. Walking outside during lunch break, energy boost. Processed foods and heavy lunches, drain. Drinking a glass of water before meals, boost. Slowly, he replaced the drains with boosts. Swapped soda for water. Added daily 20-minute walks. Ate balanced meals with protein, greens, and healthy fats. Set a strict bedtime alarm. 10:30 p.m. lights out. Within 3 weeks, his energy skyrocketed. It wasn't about dieting or punishing workouts. It was about consistency. The next area Richard targeted was his productivity. At work, He was constantly distracted by emails, Slack messages, and co-workers popping by his desk. His tasks stretched endlessly into the night. He learned about deep work, a concept by Cal Newport, and decided to implement it. 2 90-minute focused work blocks each morning, no notifications or interruptions. Batching tasks. Checking email only at 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. Weekly review every Sunday. He planned his top 3 priorities for the week. At first, it felt impossible to resist distractions. But on day 5, something magical happened. He entered a state of flow, losing track of time as he worked on a complex project. By the end of the month, his productivity doubled. Tasks that once took him 8 hours now took 4. Even with his progress, Richard felt an emotional weight holding him back. His transformation wasn't just physical or professional. It had to be internal. One night, he journaled about his fears and failures. He realized his burnout wasn't only caused by bad habits. It was fueled by guilt. 3 years ago, Richard's father passed away. They hadn't spoken for months before his death because of a bitter argument. Richard had thrown himself into work to avoid dealing with pain. Now, as he rebuilt his life, he understood, if I don't face this, I'll keep sabotaging myself. The next day, he called his mother. They talked for 2 hours, crying and sharing memories of his father. It didn't erase the pain, but it helped him forgive himself and start healing. 90 days later, Richard stood in front of the mirror. The man staring back was almost unrecognizable. He had lost 15 pounds. His eyes were clearer, his posture confident, his mind focused. At work, his boss noticed his dramatic improvement and gave him a high-profile project. Colleagues asked him for advice on staying productive. Even his friends commented, "Dude, you seem different, happier." But Richard knew the truth. He wasn't just different, he was reborn. Richard documented everything he had done, the habits, mindset shifts, and systems that transformed his life. He called it the Phoenix Method. Key principles. Identity first. Don't just change habits. Change how you see yourself. Start tiny. Small actions compound over time. Protect your energy. Guard sleep, nutrition, and stress like precious resources. Deep work wins. Focus beats busyness every time. Heal the inner wounds. Without emotional clarity, no system will stick. He shared his framework with a few friends, then co-workers, and eventually, he launched a small online course. To his surprise, it went viral. Thousands of people began using the Phoenix Method to rebuild their own lives. 2 years later, Richard looked out over a crowd of 300 people at his first live seminar. He thought about the night he sat surrounded by empty pizza boxes, feeling hopeless. If only that version of himself could see him now. He took a deep breath and began his speech. You are not broken. You are not lazy. You simply need the right system to rise again. If I can do it, so can you. The crowd erupted in applause. Richard smiled. The Phoenix Method wasn't just about his transformation anymore. It was about lighting the spark for others to rise from their own ashes. Richard's journey wasn't easy. It took 90 days of relentless focus and years of continued growth. But his story proves that anyone can transform their life through mindset, health habits, and productivity systems. The key isn't massive, overnight change. It's stacking small wins, day after day, until momentum takes over. The Phoenix Legacy, Richard's next chapter. Richard stood backstage, his heart pounding as he prepared to deliver his first ever seminar speech. The crowd of 300 people waited eagerly, many of them desperate for change, just like he had been 2 years earlier. As he scanned the room, a wave of gratitude and humility washed over him. 2 years ago, he had been sitting alone in his apartment, surrounded by empty pizza boxes and bottles, feeling like his life was over. Now, he was here not as a victim of his past, but as a guide for others. If I can do this, he thought, maybe I can help them do it too. The seminar was a resounding success. People lined up afterward to shake his hand, share their struggles, and thank him for giving them hope. Some cried as they told him their stories of burnout, broken relationships, and dreams deferred. Richard was deeply moved, but he also felt the weight of responsibility. Helping people transform their lives wasn't just about giving motivational speeches. It required depth, structure, and sustainable systems. The next morning, Richard woke up with a strange mixture of pride and anxiety. The applause still echoed in his mind, but so did the realization that he had a decision to make. Would he return to his comfortable corporate role, or would he fully commit to growing the Phoenix method into something bigger than himself? As he sipped his morning lemon water, he opened his journal and wrote, "If I'm serious about helping others, I must be willing to step into the unknown." Richard decided to take a calculated leap. He transitioned to part-time work at his tech firm, freeing up 2 full days a week to focus on developing the Phoenix method. He began by refining the framework. Through hundreds of conversations with seminar attendees, he identified recurring themes. Many struggled with time management because they lacked clear priorities. Others felt trapped by toxic work environments but didn't know how to set boundaries. Some were battling deep emotional wounds, childhood traumas, unresolved grief, or fears of failure that sabotaged their progress. Richard realized that while his original 5 principles were powerful, they needed more nuance. He added 3 new pillars to the system. Clarity Compass, a tool for defining personal and professional goals with precision. Boundaries Blueprint, strategies for protecting mental energy by saying no with confidence. Resilience Rituals, practices for staying strong during setbacks and high-stress periods. These additions turned the Phoenix method into a holistic life transformation system, not just a productivity hack. As the Phoenix method grew, so did the challenges. Richard began hosting weekly webinars and posting short, actionable videos online. Within 6 months, his social media following exploded. People around the world shared testimonials about how his system was changing their lives. But with visibility came criticism. Some online commentators accused him of being a self-help scammer, dismissing his journey as a fluke. One blog post went viral claiming, "The Phoenix method is just recycled advice with a fancy name." At first, Richard was devastated. The attacks triggered his old fears of inadequacy and imposter syndrome. One sleepless night, he confided in his mother over the phone. "Mom, Richard, do you remember when you almost gave up on your tech career years ago?" "Richard, yeah, that was one of the hardest periods of my life." "Mom, and didn't you push through it by focusing on your values, not other people's opinions?" "Richard, pausing, you're right. I need to do the same thing here." Her words reminded him why he started this journey, not to please everyone, but to help those who were ready to change. He addressed the criticism head-on. In a live stream, "I'm not here to be perfect. I'm here to share what worked for me and thousands of others. If that resonates with you, take it and run with it. If not, that's okay too." The authenticity struck a chord. Ironically, his willingness to be vulnerable only strengthened his community's trust. One day, Richard received an unexpected email from a Fortune 500 company's HR director. The company had been struggling with employee burnout, low morale, and declining productivity. They wanted Richard to train their senior leadership team using the Phoenix method. It was a kind of opportunity that could catapult his framework into the corporate world and solidify its reputation. But there was a catch. The training would require 8 weeks of intensive preparation, and Richard would have to leave his part-time job permanently to meet the demand. He agonized over the decision. Leaving his stable paycheck felt risky, especially after all the financial struggles he'd endured in the past. During a walk in the park, he reflected on his journey. He thought about the version of himself who once drowned his stress in pizza and beer, too afraid to take risks. Then he remembered a line from his very first seminar. "You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." His system was strong now. He had built habits, savings, and a clear vision for his future. That night, he emailed the HR director. "I'm in." The first day of training was daunting. Richard walked into a sleek boardroom filled with high-powered executives, many of whom were skeptical of him. One man in a tailored Navy suit crossed his arms and said flatly, "So, you're here to tell us how to feel better about our jobs?" Richard smiled politely and replied, "I'm here to help you create systems that prevent burnout and drive sustainable performance. Because when your leaders thrive, your company thrives." He spent the next 4 hours teaching the Phoenix method step by step. Instead of abstract theories, He used real-world case studies, including his own transformation. By the end of the session, even the most skeptical executives were taking notes. The man in the Navy suit approached him afterward and said quietly, "I didn't think this stuff would apply to me, but I realized my own habits have been hurting my team. Thank you." The training was a massive success. The company saw a 15% increase in employee retention and a 20% improvement in team productivity within 3 months. Word spread quickly, and soon other corporations began reaching out. Despite his professional success, Richard faced an unexpected personal challenge. One evening, while preparing for a keynote speech, he received a text message that froze him in place. "Richard, we need to talk. It's about Dad." From his mother, his stomach dropped. He thought he had made peace with his father's passing years ago, but apparently there was more to the story. The next day, his mother revealed a secret. Before his father died, he had written a letter to Richard, a final message of reconciliation. But out of fear that it might hurt him further, she never gave it to him. Tears filled Richard's eyes as he read his father's words. "Son, I'm sorry for our fight. I was hard on you because I saw your potential. I hope one day you'll forgive me and yourself." The letter shattered the last remnants of guilt Richard had been carrying. That night, he delivered his keynote speech with a new level of authenticity. For the first time, he shared openly about his relationship with his father and how unhealed wounds can sabotage our lives. The audience was deeply moved. Many came forward afterward to share their own stories of unresolved family pain. Richard realized something profound. True productivity isn't just about managing time. It's about healing the emotional wounds that steal our energy and focus. Over the next year, the Phoenix Method evolved into more than just a program. It became a global movement. Richard launched an online platform with courses, community support groups, and live Q&A sessions. He partnered with mental health professionals, fitness coaches, and career strategists to provide a holistic experience. The results were staggering. A single mother in Texas used a method to balance work and parenting while starting a side business. A burned-out doctor in London regained his passion for medicine after implementing the habits. An entire startup team in Singapore credited the Phoenix Method with preventing a major collapse during a stressful product launch. Richard often reflected on these stories, humbled by how far the ripple effects had spread. 2 years later, Richard stood on a massive stage at a global leadership conference. Thousands of people filled the auditorium, and millions more watched online. He paused before speaking, taking in the moment. In the audience, he spotted his mother, tears of pride in her eyes. "I started this journey thinking I was broken," he began, "but I've learned that none of us are truly broken. We just need the right tools, the right systems, and the right support to rise again." The crowd erupted in applause, echoing to the hall like thunder. As Richard looked out over the sea of faces, he realized that the Phoenix Method was no longer just a story. It was a living legacy, a testament to the power of small, consistent actions and the human spirit's ability to overcome anything. That night, Richard returned to his journal. He wrote a simple reflection. Transformation isn't about becoming someone new. It's about uncovering the best version of who you've always been. The fire was always inside me. I just had to learn how to tend it. He closed a notebook, turned off the light, and smiled. The ceiling fan spun lazily above him, just like it had years ago. But this time, Richard didn't feel lost. He felt alive.